This is Time Warner Cable's Local Edition. My name is Brad Pomerance, and our guest is Ted Lieu, member of the California State Senate. And so I want to speak with you about Sacramento's relationship with cities. You had served on the Torrance City Council before joining the legislature. And so you have a sense that how cities operate and how they try to incentivize businesses coming in to their boundaries. In the last couple of years, Sacramento eliminated redevelopment. That was a city tool. Now we see the all but elimination of enterprise zones. And cities are upset. They're really upset because they are losing their tools. What's your sense?
Well, some cities are upset, some are not, because we didn't eliminate enterprise zones, we reformed them. And
arguably.
Correct. And so in the past, what would happen is you'd have an enterprise zone geographic area where any business that goes there, whether you made socks or sold hot dogs or manufactured high-tech satellites,
or
regardless,
a big box store.
Or a big box store, you would get a huge amount of tax credits potentially for hiring certain folks in a zone. And it was causing just different companies to move from one place to another, and in exchange, they would actually have lower paying jobs in the second place they went to, get a whole bunch of tax credits. So the state was essentially subsidizing companies to reduce wages.
But why were they reducing wages?
Because they could go from a non-enterprise zone place to enterprise zone place. So for example, a company would move to enterprise zone location.
But by definition, they could reduce wages? Or
because now you're in an enterprise zone, you get tax credits.
Right.
And a lot of these are for low-wage workers,
right.
Either ex-felons, people on CalWorks.
That is true. That is true.
And so it wasn't helping the state. What the enterprise zone reform does is it takes a portion of it and says, we don't care where your business is located statewide. If we want to help manufacturing, we don't care whether you're in Fresno or Los Angeles or Wilmington, we're going to help you.
But what about the question of those severely economic depressed areas where you think about Imperial County, for example, where they really need to create incentives for hiring? I mean, Imperial County has unemployment 25, 30%.
That's a great point. So what we did is instead of having enterprise zones based on cities or certain geographic locations, we actually look at the census and look at the poorest areas in the statewide census, and then we target those communities
for the hiring credit.
That is correct. So we still retain some of the local tools, but it's much more based on poverty level than it used to be before.
So there are no more zones per se, no geographic zones for any purpose under the Economic Development Initiative.
Well, there are zones, but now they're much more focused on poverty and census tracts in terms of poverty level. So there's still these zones, but not reconfigured.
Right, that's the point. It's not the same zones.
Correct.
So when you look at the sales tax credits, though, and the R&D credits, they do seem to be favoring larger businesses. I mean, what about the small businesses that were benefiting from?
So the small business can still take advantage of the hiring credit in these reconfigured zones that target poverty-stricken areas. But I do have to say that we're not going to compete in California in terms of low-wage industries. Our property values are too high, or cost of living is too high. It's going to be those areas where we have competitive advantage, things that California can add value to for a service or product.
So what are your constituents saying, the business community?
They support it.
They do.
This was a bill that was supported both by business and labor, because it now really gives tools to attract businesses from out of state to come into California. And
Texas?
For business, that's absolutely right.
North Carolina?
Well, so another part of the reform is we now allocate money to the Go Biz office, which is within the governor's administration, to specifically provide incentives to companies out of state to come to California.
Okay, his name is Ted Lieu. He is a member of the California State Senate. My name is Brad Pomerance. You're watching Time Warner Cable's Local Edition.